Hey my glam girls, welcome back to my channel. It's Chelsea, where we talk about all things glam and all things girly. So today I have the new Sonia G Fusion brushes to share with you all. I'm so excited to share these brushes with you all, and I have to thank the Beautylish team and Sonia G for sending them to me. I was so excited when I saw that she was coming out with new brushes. I was like, just tell me the date, I'm adding to cart. And so I was very thankful and grateful when I found out that I was receiving them. So I cannot wait to share with you the demonstration of them and my thoughts. And I have a couple of comparison with these new brushes with some of my other brushes that I typically use. So before we get into this video, I have to say thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I truly do appreciate it. And if you are new, I'd love for you to consider subscribing to my channel and joining the Glam Girl Squad. And let's just get right into this video. So like I said, we have the new Fusion Series brushes by Sonia G. And I personally have been waiting for brushes like this from her. So she is the queen, the king of fude, Japanese-based brushes, and I feel a decent collection of her brushes. I don't have all of them, but I am quickly getting all of them, and I have just completely fallen in love with her brushes. I would 100% say that she is by far my favorite creator of fude, and I just love everything about her brushes. So let me give you some quick updates. So these brushes are releasing today, June the 22nd, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I, of course, will have the link down below if you'd love to go and shop through my link. I would really appreciate it if you did. If you don't, it's okay. These brushes are not limited edition. They will be a part of her permanent collection. And as a set, they do retail for $225. But also, which I'm very excited about, each one of these brushes will be sold individually for various prices, which I will share with you as I get into the details of each brush. So a little backstory, because I went on her blog and I read about the brushes, and I suggest if you ever just want to know the most about any brush out there, go to Sonia's blog. She is detailed is not even the accurate word to describe how thorough she is when she's writing her blogs and sharing with you about her creation of brushes, but also her thoughts on other types of brushes. So this brush set was inspired by the mini base brush from her Kiyaki set. So I have that. Where is it? Oh, here we go. It's right here. So I love this set, and this mini base brush was a game changer for me. It is the brush that I use for my cream contour, and I also will use it for my cream blush, but it is my go-to for cream contour, cream bronzer, anything of that nature. I also love it because you can use it to blend out concealer, and it's also very similar to the shape of my favorite concealer brush, which is the Morphe E8 brush. A lot of you always tend to ask me, like, what brush are you using? And I haven't thrown this out because it's still a favorite of mine. It's the last Morphe brush that I own, and I will keep it because I love it. But I was so happy when Sonia created this mini base brush, because I'm like, great, I now have basically another identical brush to my favorite concealer brush, but a better quality one with this one. So she inspired this set from this particular brush. So let's get into the details of the brushes, because I can sit and ramble and talk about how much I love Sonia G all day, and y'all don't want to hear that. So just like the mini base brush from the Kiyaki set, all of these 5 brushes will be composed of the same bristle hairs as the mini base brush from the Kiyaki set. And so we have Sokoho goat hair. It's also going to be infused with 2 synthetic hairs, so PTT and PBT. So those are the 2 synthetic hairs that she bundled with the Sokoho goat hairs. She said that she decided to stick with this blend because it was the perfect balance of a natural bristle and also synthetic bristles. And she was like, when using cream and liquid products, she feels like this particular combination works well. So just to give you some of the high points, her blog goes into way more detail, but like I said, I don't want to hold you too long. So the natural bristles in the brush are going to allow for the brush to buff the product into the skin easier. It's also going to allow for it to not disturb whatever you have on your face, should that be foundation or sunscreen or your skincare. And it's also going to allow for the bristles themselves to not stick and clump together, whereas the synthetic hairs of the brush are going to allow for the product itself to diffuse into the skin a little easier, glide onto the skin a little easier, and it's also going to not absorb as much product as natural hair bristles do. So those are just a couple of the high points as to why she chose this combination of fibers to create the brush hairs. So getting into the first brush, this is the Jumbo Base Brush. And as you can see, it is a larger type of brush. The ferrule is going to be flat, and it's got a slight angle to it as well right here. And so this brush, Sonia says, is going to allow for your liquid foundations to, or your liquid products to just blend into the skin very easily. And from the demonstration, you saw me take my foundation, and within a couple of pounces, that foundation was completely blended into the skin. And I was like, okay, I'm here for this. This brush does retail for $68 US. Like I said, it is sold individually as well as in the set. It's going to have a hair length of 27 millimeters. The total brush length is 167 milliliters, and the ferrule is 28 by 17 millimeters. This brush is going to be your typical foundation brush, and when comparing it to my favorite BKB 101 brush, one of the things that I love about this brush is that it blends in foundation so quickly, but so well, and I love the angled hairs. So when looking at both of these brushes side by side, the Sonia G brush obviously is not as angled as the BK Beauty brush, but there is a slight angle. So just like I like how this fits on the face, this Sonia G Jumbo Base also fits well on the face. It though can very well be used to blend out your contour, your cream bronzer, if you want it more of like a precise and harsher application of that contour or bronzer. But I would typically use this for either liquid foundation or cream foundation. So as you saw in the demonstration, that's how I used it today. This is extremely soft, of course. Like I said, I could not get over how quickly I was able to blend in my foundation with this brush and not just pounce it into the skin, but really blend it into the skin as well. Next, we have the classic base brush. So this brush does retail individually for $40. It has a hair length of 23 milliliters, a total brush length of 163 milliliters, and the ferrule is going to be 15 milliliters. And so as you can see, the ferrule on this brush is going to be round. I love how the shape of this brush is a little domed and the bristles are a little bit more compact. I immediately thought of the BK Beauty. This is the 106 brush. And so they do have a similar shape in terms of them both having this domed kind of shape. Obviously, the BK Beauty brush is going to be bigger than the Sonia G, and it's also going to have a larger surface area than the Sonia G. However, this brush is another one that is multifunctional. I think all of these brushes are definitely multifunctional. So Sonia says that you can use this brush for blending out concealer on larger parts of the face. You can use it for placement and blending of your brighteners, your correctors. You can use it for foundation or cream blush. So I use this brush on this side of the face just to show you how it blends out foundation. It blends out foundation beautifully. I also love that how soft this is. Like, I literally was just blending in the foundation and it was a very luxurious experience. Not that this wasn't either, because obviously the hairs are the same, but for this one, this is the brush that I'm gonna go for when I'm like, I got 10 minutes to do my face. I need to get this on quickly. I don't need to enjoy the experience because I just need to get it on. Whereas this brush, I really enjoyed the blending of it. It blended out the product very smoothly. So I am excited because I can use either one of these to blend out foundation. It really just depends on which one that I reach for because both blend them out beautifully. And there wasn't a discrepancy in terms of how well the product applied. What I did notice, and what I think you all can also see in the video, is that I felt like I had a little bit more coverage on this side of my face using the Jumbo Base brush compared to this side of my face using the classic base brush. And I was like, okay, so if I also want to pack on or kind of have a more full coverage with a foundation, especially if the foundation leans a little lighter in its coverage, I can go for the jumbo base brush and get a more dense application of the product, all the while still blending it out very well. I was able to build up the foundation on this side so it matched this side of the face. But I did notice that and I was like, okay, very interesting. And just to give you an idea of the products that I use, I'll have them listed down below, but I went in for foundation with the La Mer Cushion foundation, and I have it in beige nude 43. And then for my concealer, I went in with the Chantecaille, the La Camouflage Stylo in this shade 4W. So for concealer, I wanted to use both of the concealer brushes just to number one, see which one I might like better for concealer, and then also to show you how they blend out the product. So starting with the jumbo concealer, this is what the jumbo concealer looks like. I love how wide and also flat the bristle hairs are. The ferrule is going to be more pitched here. And I immediately thought of the Sonia G, this is the Worker 2 brush. So looking at them side by side, the jumbo blender brush obviously is wider, and it's going to width-wise be a little wider as well, but they both have a very similar shape. So if you wanted to use her Worker 2 to blend out concealer, you could, but I like the jumbo concealer to do that as well. I like to use the Worker 2 primarily for my eyes. The jumbo concealer brush is going to retail for $30, and the hair length is going to be 16 millimeters. The total brush length is 151 milliliters, and the ferrule is going to be 14 by 9 millimeters. The uses that Sonia says for this brush are going to be concealer, eye primer, the precision placement and blending of brightening or correctors. You can use it to apply your contour creams in specific areas of the face, around the nose, the mouth, and the temples. So we're able to blend out concealer traditionally with this particular jumbo concealer brush, but you can also, if you want to spot conceal, do that as well. If I wanted an even more precise and like very specific placement of contour, blush, highlight, any of the above, you can use it for that. And you most definitely can use it for contouring the nose, which I didn't use today, but I should have. Sonia also says that the jumbo concealer brush is going to apply your concealer with more opacity than the soft concealer brush, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And I did witness that when I was applying a concealer and blending it out under the eye. I noticed that the concealer on this side of the face using the jumbo concealer brush was more opaque than the concealer being blended out with the soft concealer brush. The bristles for the jumbo concealer brush do not move as much as the bristles in the soft concealer brush. And Sonia said this is going to allow for the jumbo concealer brush to apply liquids with a thicker texture and blend them out a little better. Whereas with the soft concealer, this has a little bit more movement, a little bit more flexibility in the bristles. And when I blended it out on the eye, it blended concealer beautifully, but I also got a lighter blend of the concealer with this soft concealer versus the jumbo one, which I do like because depending on the coverage that I want, if I want to go for full glam or not, or if I'm using a lighter coverage concealer, if I'm using that lighter coverage concealer, but I want to get as much coverage as possible, I would go with the jumbo concealer. Whereas if I had a higher coverage concealer, but I wanted to use a little bit of it and kind of really diffuse it out, the soft concealer brush is going to be perfect for that. Some details about the soft concealer brush. This is going to retail for $32. The hair length is 18 millimeters. The brush length is 163 milliliters. Sonia says that this brush is good for concealer, eye primer, precision placement and blending of your brighteners and correctors, cream contours around the nose, around the mouth, and the temple. So the same uses of the soft concealer is as those of the jumbo concealer, but you're going to get a lighter application, a more diffuse application with the soft concealer brush. Sonia says that the soft concealer brush is like the little sister of the mini base brush. So here is the mini base brush, and this is the soft concealer brush, and we can definitely take a look at it and see that there are some similarities between the two brushes. Sonia says that these three brushes are going to be siblings. We have the classic base, the mini base, and then the soft concealer brush that she says are going to be like siblings, which I think is so cute, but it's very true. If you're looking at these brushes, they all have a similar shape. And of course, the surface area of the brushes will be different, but the shapes of the brushes are quite similar. So you can see that they're all coming from the same family. So the last brush that we are going to talk about is going to be the mini base, the star of the show, the one inspired by the mini base from the Cadiz set. So looking at both of them, they are identical, which I'm happy about, because I know sometimes, you know, we can see discrepancies when a brand creates a product that's inspired from another one and it's supposed to be the same, but it's not. But in this case, they are the same. The brush hairs are of course identical, and everything about these brush hairs, length, shape are going to be the same. And this brush is just, like Sonia says, the perfect workhorse type of brush. So some details about this one is that it's going to retail for $40 individually. The hair length is 23 millimeters. The total brush length is 163 milliliters, and the ferrule is 15 milliliters. So Sonia says that you can use this one for large placement of concealer, spot concealing, blending and placement of your correctors and your brighteners, cream contour, cream blush, foundation, and so on. So looking at these two, the only difference between the mini base and the Cadiz set and this one, the Fusion set, is going to be just the length of the handle. So this brush is a brush that I personally love using to blend out my cream contour, cream bronzer, and also blush. I've also used this to blend out my concealer. I've also used it to blend out my foundation. It takes a little bit longer, but it works beautifully, and I have done that. I mean, for any liquid product, I use this brush. So for today, when I applied my cream bronzers, I blended out my cream bronzers with this brush. I used the new Say cream bronzers in 2 shades, medium bronze and also deep bronze. So those were the 2 bronzers that I used. Blended it out perfectly, like no issues there, just perfection. For blush, I went in with the Westman Atelier cream blush in the shade Popette right here, and I just dabbed it onto the cheeks, and then I went in with the classic base and blended that out. Blended it out beautifully. Loved how I blended it out. Did not pick up the foundation underneath. I was able to stipple the blush into my cheeks, and when I got till the end, I was able to also blend it out circularly, not picking up any product. And then when I went to apply my highlight, I went back in with the mini base, and I actually used a powder product because you can use powder products with these brushes. You don't have to exclusively use liquid. They're made for liquid products and cream products, but you can use powder. So I went in with a powder highlight. I went in with the Range Beauty. This is the Golden Hour Dual Eye and Highlight, and I used the mini base brush to blend out that highlight. It blended it out beautifully, and I applied it here and also on the apples of the cheek, and then down my T-zone. So I wanted to create a quick little eye look, and I wanted to see how I could use both of the concealer brushes for an eye look. So I went in with the Danessa Myricks Color Fix Foils because these are liquid products, and I also hadn't used them. So I wanted to create a quick little eye look. So I first went in with Desert Rose, and I went in with the soft concealer brush and blended that out. I was actually very happy that this fit very well into my eye. So I don't have a lot of lid space, and I found that, and I felt like it blended out the product very easily. I didn't feel like the brush was too big to blend out product on the eye, and I was like, great. Blended out the product phenomenally. Then I went in with the shade Plum Wine and the Jumbo Concealer Brush, applied that on the outer area of the eye. Once again, blended it out quickly and beautifully. Wasn't any issues with that. And then for the shimmer, I went in with the Color Fix product in the shade Fantasy, flipped it on the other side of the Jumbo blender, and was able to apply it seamlessly onto the eye. Once again, blending out the product very well and I had a whole eye look. I did go in with a couple other brushes to complete the eye look. So I used the Sonia G Pencil Pro brush to apply the plum wine on the lower lash line. And then I went in with my Charlotte Tilbury Queen of Glow eyeshadow palette. And I used this shade on the very most outer corner of the eye. And then I used this shade for the inner corner of the eye. That completed the eye look. That was that. But if I just wanted a wash of color over the eyes, like just using a cream product and just blending it out over the eye and be done with it, you can also use both of these concealer brushes to do that. So Sonia really, as always, put a lot of time and effort into these brushes to create what we needed. She created brushes that were multifunctional, multi-purpose, and gave us the gaps that we potentially could have had in our brush collection. These brushes definitely fill a gap that I had in my Food Aid, especially when it came to foundation and concealer. I forgot to show the comparison of my favorite concealer brush to the mini base brush. So the mini base brush is here, and this is the Morphe E8 brush. And as you can see, they're very similar in their shape. They're also very similar in their width. And also the surface area of the two brushes are quite similar. So like I said, I can use the mini base brush to blend out concealer if needed. And I'm glad that I now have two, because prior to, I would always use my mini base brush for cream contour, and I would just go back to my Morphe one for concealer, because I didn't want to have to wash this brush every time to blend out my concealer if I applied my contour or bronzer with this brush. Now I have two, and so I most definitely will see myself reaching for my other mini base brush to blend out my concealer over my Morphe brush, because as much as I love this brush, I definitely wanted to replace it, and so now I have two. Very happy to do so. So guys, those are my thoughts on this collection. Like I said, it does launch today. Sonia does not always have the most stock of brushes, so if you are interested in any of these, definitely go ahead and pick them up today. Thank you once again to the Beautylish team and Sonia G for being so kind and sending these over to me. And if there are any questions that you have about the brushes that I did not answer below, definitely leave them in the comment section. I'd love to know your thoughts and your questions, so I can help you make an informed decision as to if you feel these brushes are needed in your collection. And if you made it to this point in the video and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, definitely go ahead and consider subscribing. I'd love to have you join the Glam Girls squad. And guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in my very next video. Bye guys.